Hello and welcome to Stay Energetik, a podcast dedicated to our favourite Belarusian football team, the mighty Energetik BGU. Thank you so much for joining us on our weekly journey through the main talking points of Energetik's last match. Once we've covered that, we'll move on to our thoughts on how we see the next one panning out, and anything else Energetik related that we think you might want to hear.
Привет, William.
And I'm Dan.
Without further ado, let's get on with talking about last week's massive clash with Shakhtar Sologorsk. I don't know about you, Dan, but for me, I was just so proud of our little team from Minsk because recent weeks have suggested that Belarusian TV is focusing on one big game of the week. Brings it back to the days of, reminds me of the days of the big match back in the 80s and 90s, showing my age. And we were the big match this week, which was fantastic. And I just felt the whole occasion, the interview with Yakshiboev at halftime, just a whole, almost an introduction to BGU. And it was really a moment to feel like, well, this would never have happened early on in the season. No one would have predicted this. And yet here we are, sort of, and as far as can be expected in a small league in Eastern Europe, we're the centre of attention.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose our expectations were completely unknown because we didn't really know the squad at all. But if you spoke to people in Minsk, if you spoke to people in Belarus, yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting that we would be anywhere near where we are at the moment. So the fact that we've been picked into the game of the weekend, the fact that we get the sexy drones up top that look some sort of, some crazy 90s football computer game or something, or even the crazy mid-match guess whose legs these are camera work. It was all adds to the spectacle, all adds to the drama. And really proud that we're there. Really proud that we're still in contention. We're over a third of the way through now. And I think anyone who suggests that this is some sort of random spark, bit of luck, etc., has to be questioning that, even if the result wasn't quite what we wanted. We're involved. And I think that's really positive.
Indeed. So on to the match itself. We speculated, or myself and John particularly speculated about changes in formation. Dan reassured us this coach doesn't change his formation. Dan, did this coach change his formation?
He did not. Obviously, clearly I can't read his mind any better than anyone else, but nothing I have seen has suggested he's going to. He seems to be very much wedded to that. And I think there is perhaps some method to the madness. We've mentioned before about the weaknesses we've got at left back, right back, etc. I think some of it perhaps is pragmatism, is him looking at where his strengths lie and really leaning into that. Whether he'd want to if he had the different personnel, I don't know. I don't know enough about the coach to make that judgment. But yeah, he stuck with what he knew, minor player adjustments, mainly out of necessity, I guess. Though not entirely. We did obviously have a bit of a change in goal, which I wasn't anticipating at all.
Me neither, to be honest. I mean, Lesko, I felt, had done reasonably well in recent weeks, and suddenly a keeper who is clearly a lot more inexperienced than Lesko was brought into the firing line for what I would suggest is the biggest game of the season so far. How did you feel that Stovsky did overall, Dan?
A bit of a mixed bag. I mean, majority of the game, I don't think there was much to complain about. There was a couple of moments that concerned me. There was a moment on the 66th minute, for example. He came out quick, but not quick enough. Went down early. Their attacker was skitched out to the left. He was in no man's land in the end. He was lucky that two things happened. Two defenders dropped back into the goal place to stop any obvious easy shot. And then the striker just blasted it out of nowhere. A complete throwaway there and a lucky escape. The one that was even weirder and kind of maybe speaks a bit more to attention than to the actual playing of the game. There was a moment that Shakhtar came in and the ball was played from just inside our half on the left-hand side. It's towards goal, but it's not got a huge amount of power. Bounces in front of Sadovsky and he completely misjudged it, flapped at it, and it bounced, I think, off his chest, if I remember correctly, or something stupid like that, and then off for a corner. It was an easy ball that could have been collected and could have really been dealt with nice and easy, but it brought, invited that pressure onto us. But that's 2 moments in the entire game. So I don't want to suggest that this was in any way a massive drama for him. He was involved. I don't want to go too much into some of the rest of it, because I think we'll touch on it a bit more with some of what Shakhtar did. But there were a couple of decent saves later on that really did help us, keep us to within one. So yeah, I'm not saying it was the worst of performances. I'm not saying it was the best. There was a couple of moments of concern based on his judgment, but yeah, some good saves as well.
I think the thing with Sadowski is he kind of epitomised what I felt we felt as a team in the first half. I thought we looked nervous. I mean, understandably, it's a massive game. Even that we mentioned that it's the main game of the week. I mean, the calibre of the opposition, we are always punching above our weight with a team like Shakhtar in terms of resources, as we've already suggested in previous weeks. And we did look nervous, and we didn't really get our act together. And Shakhtar really, I felt, deserved to be ahead at half-time. In fact, they might have been 2 up were it not for an amazing situation where the ball hit the inside of the post, and it looked like either the guy coming in at the far post would knock it in, or it would just go straight in, and it did neither. So that was a let-off. I think Beliavsky messed around with things a bit. He switched the wing-backs. He had Muatu on the right-hand side at one stage and Gears back on the left-hand side, which I found quite strange. Gears clearly not a naturally left-sided player. Muatu didn't really have his crossing boots on in the first half, and I think overall we were just a bit flat, really, and that was to be expected. I think Sadowski epitomised that. As I say, he just looked like he wasn't quite ready for it, and we all looked like it was going to go on to be a rather comfortable defeat. But thankfully, we came out for the second half in a much better frame of mind, it seemed to me.
Yeah, it was only the one substitution in the whole game, which I thought was interesting. And that happened at the midpoint. I think it was Umarov off for Sovpol on, if I remember correctly. And that change did seem to do something. It added something to our midfield, to our attack, and our structure. Full stop. Actually, I mean, one of the observations that's come out from everyone who watched it was people like, for example, my favourite Nosko, not really in the game. He was minimised. He was bypassed. Umarov, I know one of your favourites, had a cracking game last week. Again, not really much going on there. Not much sign of life. Second half, that did change. I'm not saying that's all softball. I'm not putting him on a pedestal or anything, but something that happened there in that change, and something what was obviously said to them, meant they came at it with a much more positive, can-do kind of attitude in the second half, which was definitely promising to see. We have talked before about this team when it goes 1-0 down, about whether it can do anything. We saw the week before we managed to get a draw. Not great, but it's better than we've seen before. And this time we seem to keep in it. I know we talk a little bit of luck, and I know the posts were involved a couple of times, but we stayed in it. We were fighting to it, but for maybe a bit of difference in the last kind of 5 minutes, could have even picked up a point against a very difficult side.
Indeed, I think it's worth bearing in mind also, although we did look, I felt we deserved to be behind at half-time. We did have a goal disallowed in the first half, and Bakic was just marginally offside. And in the second half, although overall I felt Yakshiboev didn't have a great game, he did have one effort, which Gutor tipped over. Clearly good enough to get Gutor a place in the team of the week, according to the Belarusian Football Federation. So that's interesting. Because I didn't think he had a huge amount to do, but he did also make a crucial late save from Bakic. And I felt that was our moment. And you've alluded to already, 5 minutes to go, still in the game. Lovely first touch from Bakic. Felt he could have connected better with it. Still a good save from Gutor. But that was the moment when we held our breath and thought, here comes our equaliser. I guess you could argue that we were a little bit lucky, as you said. They'd already hit the post at that stage in the second half. I felt, having had an incredibly dubious decision given against Muatu the previous week, I felt Muatu went right through the back of one of their players when he was about to tuck in a second. I'm not sure how you saw that, but there weren't many in protest, but the ball seemed to trickle out and was then given as a goal kick. So I can't believe that Muatu got anything on it. And yet the referee had a perfect view, pointed for a goal kick, which, as I say, after the performance of Mr. Vasiljevic the previous week, was quite reassuring. I think they got one there personally. How did you see it?
Yeah, again, I don't know what some sort of voodoo on the camera angles whenever there's a penalty shout at the moment, but yeah, a few bodies in the way again, and the camera cuts away very quickly just at the point that we were trying to see what was going on. Yeah, I'm taking my cue from the other players there. I mean, even teammates of the guy who goes down, the guy closest to him, not a single complaint, not a whinge, not a moment. The only person really I can see calling for it is someone right over the other side, outside the box. And clearly, I mean, if he's the one calling for it, and we both play football, if the guy right at the back on the other side of the pitch is shouting for it, and he's the only one shouting for it, yeah, he's probably wrong. So, I'm gonna have to put a bit of faith here. I mean, no one's calling for it. No one's looking sheepish on the Energetik side. I'm gonna have to assume that something happened there, and no, that it was a coming together, or maybe both hit the. I don't know. I didn't see it, but there was no suggestion that any of the players felt that it was a penalty. So I'm gonna have to accept that.
Can I just point out that the aforementioned Dan, who is an Arsenal fan, as we well know, just said, I did not see it. Yes, I've heard that somewhere before.
I learned from the best. Yeah, if we're supporting the students now, then who better than the professor to have a comment? Yeah, what can I say? I learned from the best.
But I mean, ultimately, we did finish up on the losing side, as I think many expected us to do. But what was your feeling at the end of the game? How did you? What was your reaction when the referee blew for full time? I knew it the previous week when the referee blew for full time. I should point out, actually, as an aside, that Mr. Vasiljevic, unless I'm much mistaken, didn't referee a game last weekend. So clearly, Dan, our influence is spreading. The Federation has moved quickly to remove this gentleman from the line of fire after his shocking performance in the previous week. But anyway, yes, get back to this week. What did you make? How did you feel at the end of the game? Did you feel obviously disappointed, but was there slightly less disappointing than the previous week?
Well, before I talk about my feelings, I just think any assertion that I have any power over anything to do with the Belarusian league, can I just state I have none? I've had so many accusations as to what my sudden powers are, ridiculous. So, yeah, I do not have the power to change the referees in the games. I just want to stress that before anyone else comes at me on Twitter for some sort of control I don't have. Yeah, so outside of that, feelings that we have. Yes, so the game before... the game before, it was a draw. It felt like a loss. I think I even titled that on the blog, on the podcast title. I referenced it. In fact, I even think I referred to it as a loss at the tail end of the last podcast. It's so ingrained was it in my head that the feeling that we had thrown something away, that we'd lost that. Yeah, slightly odd, this one, because we did actually lose, and I didn't feel as bad about it. Shakhtar clearly are a quality side. You look back at their history, you look back at what they've, well, not necessarily what they've won, but the fact that they've always there in contention. I mean, I think John referred to them as the serial bridesmaids. Yeah, these are one of the top teams in there. They're up against Bate, for example, who are always going to be trying to win it. But Shakhtar are up there or thereabouts. And the fact that we were there, we kept it to within one. Yes, it was a bit of a tentative, awkward first half, but second half we came back at it. We had chances. Bakic towards the end there. Bakic offside. A little niggle again from Bakic being offside after the Umarov one last week, but I won't go into that too much. Yeah, we stayed in contention. And I think that goes back to something you were saying right at the real beginning. This isn't an Energetik that just got promoted last season, playing in 12th place, struggling. Well, I'm not saying struggling. Sorry, that's the wrong phrase. But this is an Energetik who's battling it out at the top, trying to get in to Europe. And I don't see no reason why, after that performance, that we shouldn't expect that to continue, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I think it showed that we can mix it with the very best in the league. That, we've now played Bate, we've played Brest, we've played Shakhtar. We've played some of the teams. We've played the last three champions, in fact, and we've beaten two of them and lost narrowly to the other one. So yeah, I think I totally agree. I was encouraged. Of course, I was disappointed. I didn't feel gutted. I didn't feel robbed. I felt that probably in the balance of play, Shakhtar deserved to win the game. But I felt we were close, and that was incredibly encouraging in terms of what remains of the season. Having said that, going from a game last week that we probably didn't expect to win and would have been delighted to get a point from. We head into this weekend, and all of a sudden, it's a very different proposition. We have to play Belshina this Sunday at 2. And ultimately, this is a game that we really should win. A quick look at the league table will tell you that Belshina are struggling right down the bottom, already adrift. So, Dan, always confident, always optimistic. How do you see this one panning out on Sunday?
Well, of course, I'm really worried now. No. I'm not going to flip my mode. Of course, I know I kind of bring optimism to the podcast. No, I'm not going to stop that just because everyone else is going to join me. Yeah, we should win this. You'd like to think, and I know there's been a bit of luck against them, but overall, yeah, I just don't see anything to really be worried about. And as you say, we stood up toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the league. Yes, we lost 1-0, but we did all right. And I'm not convinced that they've got much to bring at us. I want to give a quick shout-out. Should have posted this morning John's preview for the game. He goes into much more depth about the team, about the city, and he's got his views on it, not necessarily tally with ours 100%, but yeah, broadly in line, I think, as to what I'm expecting. Yeah, and that I should have posted out, and it'll be on the timeline as well. And I'll post links into the notes on this podcast. But yeah, I'm going to come in optimistic. I think this is a chance. The other thing I'm kind of just going to little tag onto my thoughts on this. It's been 3 games since the Yak scored. Obviously, he didn't score in the last game. He wasn't playing in the game before. I can't remember if he scored in the game before that. I really can't remember. Still joint top scorer. Just want to pop that out there. Still got joint top goal scorer in the league, even if he hasn't scored for the last 2 or 3 games. So maybe a good chance for him to step up. He's given the others a chance to catch up. Let's carry on now and see if he can start adding to that tally.
I think the thing with this game, I know it's a boring and cliched expression to use, but I do think if we score the first goal in this game, I don't think we're going to have any trouble whatsoever. I think that Belshina obviously are pretty bereft of confidence. I think watching them fairly much capitulate against Dinamo Minsk last weekend is an indication of where they're at. They seem to be a team with plenty of heart, but inevitably you get this far into the season, you still haven't won a game. You've been in some good positions, you've fought back from behind and then lost games. You've generally been there or thereabouts, and you still haven't won. Inevitably, I think if you can see the first goal in a situation like that, then it's inevitable your heads will drop as a team. My worry, as always, because I'm an eternal pessimist, is that they hang on for a bit, sneak a goal on the counter attack, a la Borodea, and then get incredibly heartened by all that, stick everyone behind the ball, and try and hang on. Having said that, they haven't been particularly adept at doing that. So. Yeah, there's every reason to be optimistic this week. We can't be optimistic when playing a team that's 6 or 7 points adrift at the bottom. Then we're never going to be. Even I'm thinking that we should be able to win this game. I suppose there are some issues to deal with in terms of selection, but not huge ones. But I think perhaps the biggest one is you've already alluded to is the issue of Softball, who's now come on twice at half time in games and made a significant impact on the team's performance. So much so on Sunday, I believe that he actually got the Man of the Match award, didn't he, from the Energetik fans, despite having only played half a match. And much as I love Umarov and feel that he's an incredibly good prospect, I do wonder whether maybe if there's just one change to be made, maybe Softball's done enough now to make that start ahead of Umarov.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about Umarov a number of times, and we have slightly different views on him. For me, Umarov is a sub. He's a very impactful sub. He brings that energy to the side. And I think he was far more effective when he was doing that rather than when he was starting. I think Softball is asking that question at the moment. And yeah, personally, I prefer to see Softball start and have the option of Umarov coming on and terrorizing some tired legs. Personally, I think that just adds a better balance to the side. And yeah, that's what I want to see. I suppose the question that I'd ask, did Sadovsky do enough for you to keep his place in goal, or do you want to see a change there?
It's a real strange one, isn't it? As I say, Lesko was previously dropped after he kept a clean sheet, I believe, at Rook early on in the season. And then I think Sadowski had a poor game at Niemann and so was dropped. Lesko, as far as I could see, I couldn't see much wrong with his performance against Vitebsk. Yet he was out the following week. So I think he was going to bring Sadowski in at all. And although, as we said, his performance was a bit hit and miss, I don't think you can then drop him again, can you? I mean, if he's trying to build up his confidence, if he's thrown him into a big game like Shakhtar last weekend, I feel like he's got to give him a bit of a run in the team, and maybe dropping him after Niemann. He's got Lesko always there in the background, dependable, always about a 7 out of 10 sort of goalkeeper, experienced. Maybe he's thinking, now I need to give Sadowski another little run. I can't see him dropping Sadowski this weekend. And there's not an awful lot else you can do, really, is there? I see John has speculated with a 3-4-3, but I imagine you've got a response to that, Dan, in terms of what the coach is prepared to give us. I'm not quite sure also if Jucic isn't available, who the third striker would be. Presumably Jucic does get a 2-game ban for a straight red. So we'd certainly have the Yak and Bakic up front unless we bring in Junior. I'm not sure how we will go with a 3-4-3. I mean, I have to say I'm quite attracted by it in the sense that you could then play Umarov wide right and you could play Mawati wide left and then have Nosko and Southpaw in the middle. But he, as he said before, he hasn't shown any inclination to change his formation. I don't see him doing it this week. And so really the only logical change I can see really is Southpaw for Umarov, much as it pains me to say that.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to stick with my original view. As much as it's a good exercise for yourself and John to think about these new tactics, new kind of who's going to play where and all the rest of it. He's going to put out the same line up that he's done so far, I think. Yes, you've got the odd person swapping in or out, but I just don't see him changing it. I don't think he's got, as I said previously, I don't think he's got confidence sufficiently, especially in those left and right back positions, to change the defensive line. I just don't think that's there. And once you've kind of committed yourself to that, I think everything else just naturally falls into place. So I think he's going to stick with it. I don't see any changes as far as that's concerned. As you say, Umarov, Southpaw, I think that's definitely one that could be considered. Outside of that, I think I'd like to see Sadowski get another game under his belt. Shakhtar, I think, is a difficult ask. It'd be nice to put him up against something a bit... I was about to say something perhaps a bit patronising about them, but I didn't mean to. Not as difficult as Shakhtar. There we go. There's a diplomatic response. But yeah, I don't really see much in the way of change unless there's any kind of injuries or anything. Just a little side point. In the last game, I was a little bit unimpressed with their number 6. They kind of left himself in on a couple of our players. David Tway, for example. I did reach out to Tway and I spoke to him on Monday briefly. And he said he's fine. So there's nothing to worry about from that perspective. Naughty number 6. Can't remember his name. You know me, I don't learn the names. He was number 6. Not impressed with him.
I believe he was called Burko, actually, which is a name that sticks in my memory. I'll be remembering Burko when he visits us later on in the season for the return fixture. I thought it was very naughty there. I'm fairly sure he trod on Tway's arm when he could have avoided it, and he also clattered Mawati later on. But they both seem to be okay. I expect them both to start. And with that in mind, have you got any score prediction for us, Dan? Are you going to put your head on the block here or not?
See, normally I'm kind of a little bit pessimistic about our defence. Even in this goal that we conceded, I don't want to dwell too much on it, but again, it's people not quite playing the position quite right, getting drawn to the ball instead of... And we seem to have a moment like that in every game, so I'm expecting us to offer them something. There doesn't seem to be a massive suggestion that they take those offers too often. So I'm gonna give us a clean sheet, and I think possibly I'm going to go with a 2-0.
Routine 2-0. That'll do me nicely. Don't need too much excitement. Just a comfortable, nerveless performance would be lovely. And clearly, obviously, with Barty playing Shakhtar later on, you would expect us to make ground up on one of those two at least if we win. So massive incentive there to keep in touch with the top two. Obviously, we're in 4th at the moment, but we could also move above Torpedo with a good win if they don't have such a good result. So yes, I think we'll win. And that really is a statement from me, who always thinks we're going to lose or draw. So fingers crossed I'm right. If you want to find out what we think of the game during the game on Sunday, we will be offering a live stream. We're not quite sure exactly where yet, but we're planning to move to YouTube. So hopefully that will work well, and it will give you easier access to that particular stream. So we're aiming to be on air from 2:45 on Sunday. We'd love you to join us for that. Anything else you'd like to add about the shirts and the ticket, Dan, as a final?
The infamous shirts, the drama of the shirts. Well, they've left Belarus. That's as far as I know. So I've been sent a tracking reference. I have watched a tracking reference move about Belarus and then informed me that it has left. It hasn't told me anything since then. And apparently it can take something like 5 to 8 days or something. So I'm currently in the, I know it's coming, but I'm trying not to be excited too much. So I'm trying to pretend it's not coming kind of approach, because yeah, as soon as it comes, you'll know, because I'm not going to stop myself. There'll be a picture of me wearing it splashed out on the Energetik Twitter page, because why the hell not? And if you've ordered one of the shirts, then it'll be with you a day or two later, because I'll get it sent off as soon as I can, as soon as they arrive. I know you've been waiting for, well, probably 2.5 months now. So yeah, there's a need to kind of get it to you pretty damn quick. So as long as I've had my moment to take a picture of myself, I'll then get on to sending yours to you. So yes, I'm going to prioritize myself, but you know, I did all the work, so I'm going to allow myself that little moment. Anything else to say? No, I mean, yeah, we're constantly having a look at new options, new routes to try and do this. YouTube's going to be the one we're going to have a look at soon. And yeah, hopefully that'll make things a little bit easier. Can't really think of anything else, really. I suppose it's worth saying goodbye.
I think our time's up, Dan. I think we've said enough. If you managed to get this far, then I hope you agree with most of what we said. And if you disagree with it, let us know. But yeah, we'll see you on Sunday, hopefully.
Oh, and let us know what you think about the music.
Definitely let us know what you think about the music.
Thanks again for taking time out of your busy lives to listen to us talk about a team whom we knew nothing not so long ago, but who we now hold dear to our football supporting hearts. Please do contact us with comments and suggestions if you have any. My Twitter handle is @agameInSpain, and Dan's is @MajorDanB. That's with an A at the end. If, like us, you feel like talking about Energetik most days of the week, or even just at weekends, please do contact Dan, and he will add you to the Energetik Ultras Twitter chat. We'll be back next week, but until then, please do stay energetic. We firmly believe that you won't regret it. Do svidania.